The Houston Texans and Tytus Howard reached an agreement on a 3-year, $56 million extension. 36.5 of it is guaranteed per Adam Schefter. So this does a couple of things for the Texans. In extending Howard, say he has a great season next year, his value doesn't blow up and he becomes borderline unsignable this offseason. And this would give the Texans one of the top tackle tandems in the NFL for the foreseeable future to open up C.J. Stroud's career. It also probably frees up a little bit of cap space because before the deal, the Texans' offensive line was taking up about $62 million in total cap space. That's 26.88% of the team's cap, which ranked third in the NFL. So this is probably going to free up some of that money in the short term. But we'll see. I don't know how the contract is structured at this point in time. The thing to keep an eye on with this contract is just the amount of money invested into the Texans offensive line this offseason, because they also gave Shaq Mason an extension before he even played a snap with the team. And of course, they drafted Juice Scruggs in the second round out of Penn State to play center next to last year's first round pick, Kenyon Green. They have invested heavily in this offensive line. It should be good. There are no excuses for it to be bad. None at all. And the big problem that it has right now is Kenyon Green, because you don't know what the hell's happening with Kenyon Green. Green keeps dealing with injuries, and I feel like this year, much like last year, he's probably going to come into the start of the preseason and start of the regular season behind schedule as he rehabs from another injury. And you can't fault him for that necessarily, but that first-round pick is not looking so good right now. I am optimistic about Derek Stingley based off of everything we've been hearing over the last couple of months, but with Kenyon Green, I am rather concerned about how this one's going to work out.
And just like for this season, the fact that the tackles are so good, but then, like you said, you're going to have a rookie center and then a sophomore guard and a sophomore guard you do not feel good about or confident in any real meaningful way. So as much as C.J. Stroud's going to have, his blind side protected, he's also going to probably be facing a little bit of rush up the middle.
A lot, I would think, especially at first, Sean. You're right. And it's going to be an uphill battle for Juice Scruggs coming into the NFL like that. I mean, the Texans have drafted a second-round center. Not that long ago, it was Nick Martin. And Nick Martin, there were moments where he looked good at first, but then that kind of fell down. Xavier Su'a-Filo, another guy who they tried to play at guard and tried to play at center, an early 2014 pick. That didn't work out either. It's a tough position to play. The good news is to the sides, I mean, you do feel pretty good, as you said, Sean. Steven Nelson, probably not thrilled about the extension for one Tytus Howard, but Nick Caserio is aware of his unhappiness. You might remember that Steven Nelson posted a picture of a vest, a blue vest, on his Instagram story, clearly a reference to Nick Caserio and his love of vests. Caserio asked about Nelson. He says he is here and practicing, and in discussions about Nelson's contract, Caserio said this.
Not really going to comment on the discussions that we've had. We've had constructive dialogue with Steven. Respect Steven. I know he doesn't like my wardrobe selection, but that's okay. So, Steven's here. He's ready to go.
You handled that great. It's really all you can do is make a little bit of fun of yourself for it. I think Caserio does have a personality. It's just a shame that whenever he talks, he is generally a robot. And we'll probably bring Robo Caserio back tomorrow because he did speak to the media before the Texans opened up their first training camp practice today.
Yeah, Joe George, the producer of the Killer Bees, up next. He's currently going through the Caserio audio, and I walked past him during the last break, and he looked like he wanted to off himself.
Yes.
So
that's Caserio in press conferences.
I think he's only through like two answers. So.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
He rambles. There's a lot of words to say. Practically nothing. Again, much like with the Astros, pretty much all sports teams.
Feed him bleep, keep him in the dark.
Thank you very much, Sean Mapes. This is the crossroads for the Paul Gallant show. Like, it's the first day of Texans training camp, and the Astros are on the heels of an awesome win that I actually watched in person. What else is going on in my life? Like, I'm busy fighting with insurance company that rhymes with State Farm over the absolute joke of an offer they're giving for my totaled car. After the game, my long-distance situationship, she called me to break up with me. Like, there's a lot going on, but none of it matters Nothing matters now. Nothing has ever mattered because we might not be alone. NHI, guys, like what? Sports don't matter. I can't believe that no one's asked the Houston Texans about NHI. You'd get a more interesting answer about NHI than you would from Nick Casario about literally anything. Like, I think if you ask Nick Casario about aliens, I feel like he would give you a good answer. And by the way,
He just starts sweating.
by the way, you mentioned sweating. Nick Casario clearly doesn't sweat, seeing as he wears a vest in Houston when it's 100 degrees. Steven Nelson might think he's a clown freak, but is it possible that Nick Casario, who has not aged a day in like 20 years, is it possible that he is NHI? And I don't know if he's malevolent or not. I don't know. We don't know. We don't know what this roster is going to be like in a couple of years.
Yeah.
What matters? Houston Texans training camp or the possible end of the world? I don't know. I'm just asking the question. What else do we have? This is from Brooks Corbina of the Houston Chronicle. Jimmy Ward, newest Houston Texans member of the secondary, the one with the most clout on the wall, the guy who fought DeAndre Hopkins, on Jalen Petrie. Pretty sure we're going to be a great duo. You sure about that?
Pretty sure.
That's too sure.
How can you be sure of anything?
Seriously, does anything matter anymore? What is life? Do I have to do my job anymore? I don't know.
Some would argue you haven't been.
Do I have to care about any of the responsibilities? No. I'm just a tiny little speck of dust that's clearly not the most intelligent life in the universe, and there's interdimensional beings here that are here to harm us, possibly. So, but you want me to talk about sports?